Claire had always been the type of person who carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Since marrying Mark, a kind but busy man, she had become part of a blended family with his teenage son, Ethan. It wasn't always easy, adjusting to new routines, balancing her career as a school counselor, and trying to maintain a harmonious home often left her exhausted. Even after years of trying to fit in, Claire sometimes felt invisible, a background presence in her own life. One Friday evening, the house felt unusually quiet. Mark had left early for a business trip, leaving Claire alone with the empty rooms and the soft hum of the refrigerator. She dropped her bag on the floor and sighed deeply, feeling the tension of the week pressing down on her shoulders. Between endless meetings, piles of paperwork, and trying to make time for Ethan, her body ached. Her shoulders were stiff, and a dull soreness ran down her back. She considered lying down for a moment, hoping the quiet would bring some relief. Ethan, however, seemed to notice her exhaustion. At 17, he was tall for his age, with a gentle presence and a way of observing people that often caught them off guard. He wasn't just a teenager, lost in his own world. He noticed details. He saw the tightness in his stepmother's shoulders, the way she rubbed at her neck unconsciously, and the faint lines of stress around her eyes. Without asking too many questions, he approached her carefully, his voice soft but confident. "Mom," he said, using the term Claire had insisted on early in their relationship, "you look really tired. Do you want me to help?" Claire blinked, caught off guard. She hadn't expected Ethan to offer anything like this. There was a hesitation, a small internal warning that this might be unusual, but it was coupled with an undeniable warmth. I guess I could use a little help," she admitted. She wasn't expecting much. After all, he was a teenager. Still, she felt a small spark of relief at the thought of someone noticing her stress and caring enough to do something. Ethan guided her gently to the couch, careful to respect personal space. He began pressing his hands into her shoulders, slowly and deliberately. Claire closed her eyes, letting the tension start to melt. There was nothing inappropriate about the touch, just simple, careful pressure in all the right places, but it had a surprising effect. She felt calmer, lighter, and more appreciated than she had in days. There was a subtle shift in the air, quiet intimacy born from shared trust and attention. As Ethan continued, they talked casually. He asked about her day, about small things she hadn't shared with anyone, and he listened intently. He didn't interrupt or rush. He simply created a space where Claire could breathe, a rare moment where her own feelings and worries mattered. She found herself sharing frustrations she had kept bottled up for weeks, the stress at work, the fatigue of maintaining a home, the pressure of always being responsible. He nodded along, offering little comments that showed understanding, not judgment. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Ethan began asking about her dreams and personal goals, the things she had set aside while caring for everyone else. Claire felt a gentle nudge in her chest, a reminder that she had been neglecting herself. For a moment, she felt seen, really seen, and it was a strange but pleasant sensation. The room felt warmer, the evening quieter, and the presence of her stepson comforting rather than intrusive. At one point, Claire's phone rang, breaking the spell. It was Mark checking in from his trip. She smiled as she answered, laughing softly at his clumsy attempt to sound serious over the phone. Hanging up, she realized the moment she had just shared with Ethan had left her unexpectedly buoyant. It wasn't just about the massage. It was about connection, attention, and the feeling of being cared for. Ethan pulled back slightly, offering a shy smile. "Better?" he asked. Claire nodded, her heart feeling lighter. She noticed a shift in her perception. He wasn't just her stepson anymore. He had become a small pillar of support, an unexpected source of comfort. The house felt different after that evening. Even the ordinary sounds, the ticking clock, the rustling of the blinds seemed to echo the quiet bond that had formed as she went to her bedroom later that night. Claire couldn't stop thinking about the small act of care. It had been innocent, entirely appropriate, yet powerful in ways she hadn't anticipated. She wondered if she was reading too much into it or if this moment had truly changed something between them. She didn't feel guilt or discomfort, only a quiet warmth and curiosity about the nature of human connection and the bonds we form in unexpected ways. For Claire, the night was both restful and reflective. She realized that she had been carrying stress and loneliness for too long. Ethan's simple gesture had reminded her that support could come from surprising places. That kindness could have profound effects without ever crossing boundaries. It was a lesson in trust, empathy, and the subtle ways relationships could evolve. Cliffhanger as Claire drifted off to sleep. She wondered quietly what the next day would bring. Would this bond grow stronger? Could small acts of care continue to reshape her understanding of family, attention, and emotional support? Little did she know, the following days would deepen this connection in ways she never imagined. But always within the safe and respectful bounds of family. The next morning, Claire woke to the soft hum of sunlight spilling through the blinds. The previous night's moment lingered in her mind not as guilt or shame, but as a strange, comforting warmth she hadn't expected. She stretched, noticing her back felt lighter, her shoulders less tense. The small act of care from Ethan yesterday seemed to ripple through her day, like a gentle reminder that she wasn't invisible. Downstairs, she found Ethan in the kitchen, making breakfast with a careful attention that surprised her. He looked up when she entered, a small smile on his face, the quiet ease between them from the night before still lingering. "Morning, Claire," he said. His voice held the same gentle concern she had noticed yesterday, and it stirred something inside her, a deep sense of being seen, appreciated, and cared for. Claire joined him at the counter, helping with simple tasks. The conversation flowed easily, light and natural, as if they had found a secret rhythm together. They laughed at small things, a misplaced bowl, a stubborn carton of eggs, the way the toaster refused to cooperate. For the first time in weeks, Claire felt genuinely relaxed in her own home. The tension she had carried for so long had softened, replaced by something reconnection without expectation, warmth without judgment. After breakfast, they settled into a quiet afternoon. Claire had planned to tackle a stack of work, but she found herself distracted by the comforting presence of Ethan nearby. He was focused on his own tasks, yet aware of her mood, offering the occasional word of encouragement. Claire felt a curious mix of emotions: gratitude, relief, and a subtle excitement she didn't fully understand. There was a sense of trust developing between them, a shared understanding that went beyond casual conversation. As the hours passed, small gestures continued to deepen the bond. Ethan suggested stretching exercises for her shoulders, guiding her gently without ever overstepping boundaries. Claire noticed how careful and attentive he was, always respectful, never intrusive. She began to appreciate not just his thoughtfulness, but the rare ability to listen and respond to another person's needs. In Ethan, she saw maturity that was unusual for his age, a sensitivity that made her feel unexpectedly comfortable. Later, Claire went to the living room to rest, feeling a lingering tension in her back from the week's stress. Ethan followed, offering a blanket and a reassuring smile. "Just rest for a while," he said. Claire nodded, lying down as he adjusted the pillows behind her. His presence was calming, steady, and entirely innocent, yet it carried an emotional intensity that Claire found surprising. She realized that what had started as a simple act of help had evolved into a moment of genuine emotional connection. The afternoon stretched lazily, with quiet conversation and laughter. Ethan asked about Claire's childhood, her favorite memories, and the dreams she had once cherished. She found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with Mark in months, sharing hopes and frustrations, fears and longings. He listened attentively, occasionally nodding, occasionally offering thoughtful reflections. There was no judgment, no expectation, only the comfort of someone truly hearing her as the sun began to dip toward the horizon. Claire felt a mix of emotions she struggled to name. There was affection, certainly, but also a profound sense of gratitude for the care she was receiving. She realized that human connection could be healing in ways she had long ignored. Ethan's presence was not just comforting, it was transformative, reminding her of the simple power of attention and empathy. Later that evening, Mark called from his trip. Claire spoke with him briefly, recounting small details of the day. As she hung up, she felt a lingering contrast. Mark's voice was distant, preoccupied, while Ethan's presence was immediate, grounding, and emotionally resonant. She didn't feel guilty, there was nothing inappropriate, but she couldn't deny the intensity of her feelings about the day. She realized that she had been starved for emotional connection, and the bond she shared with Ethan had filled a void she hadn't even fully recognized. Ethan, for his part, seemed aware of the subtle shift as well. He treated her with a gentle attentiveness, offering quiet words of support and small acts of care. It wasn't romantic in any explicit sense. It was something deeper and more complex, a mixture of empathy, admiration, and familial affection. Claire found herself reflecting on the ways people could touch each other's lives without words. How a simple presence could convey understanding and reassurance. As night approached, Claire decided to write in her journal, a habit she had neglected for years. She wrote about the day's events, the moments of laughter, the quiet conversations, the surprising intimacy of emotional support. She paused occasionally, reflecting on her feelings without judgment, trying to untangle the mixture of gratitude, curiosity, and subtle longing. Ethan, noticing her reflection, quietly returned to his own room, giving her the space she needed while remaining nearby. The night ended with a soft, reflective silence. Claire felt her body relaxed in ways it hadn't in months, her mind calmer, her heart lighter. She realized that this bond, formed unexpectedly and gently, had shifted her perception of her household, her relationships, and her own emotional needs. It was a turning point, subtle yet profound, demonstrating that connection could emerge in unexpected ways. Cliffhanger as Claire drifted off to sleep. She sensed that tomorrow would bring new challenges and deeper understanding. The bond with Ethan was evolving, the subtle emotional closeness growing in significance. How would this connection influence her life, her choices, and the quiet longings she had kept hidden for so long? The answers were not yet clear, but the path forward promised unexpected growth and emotional revelation without ever crossing safe, respectful boundaries. The following morning, Claire woke, feeling a quiet sense of anticipation. She didn't know why, but there was a lightness to her step as she moved through the house. The previous days had been filled with unexpected warmth and comfort, and now she felt a subtle shift in her own emotions. She wondered if she had been missing something all along, a human connection that went beyond words. A presence that reminded her she mattered. Downstairs, she found Ethan already busy with household chores. He greeted her with a cheerful nod, his attentiveness gentle yet noticeable. "Good morning, Claire," he said. There was no hint of impropriety, only a genuine desire to help. Claire smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't realized she needed. She joined him, lending a hand where she could, and they worked in a quiet rhythm. The clatter of dishes, the aroma of coffee, the soft hum of music, they created a serene backdrop, making the house feel alive in a comforting way. By mid-morning, Claire had planned to tackle her work, but she found herself distracted by Ethan's quiet presence. He offered to help carry some boxes upstairs, and she noticed the careful way he handled them, making sure she wasn't strained. There was a mindfulness to his actions, a thoughtful consideration that went beyond mere helpfulness. It was as if he intuitively understood the stress she had been carrying and sought to ease it without words. Claire felt grateful, deeply touched by the kindness. After the chores, they settled into the living room. Claire picked up a book she had been reading, but soon realized her attention was drawn more to Ethan's soft-spoken commentary on his own life. He shared stories from school, memories of his friends, and little lessons he had learned about patience and responsibility. Claire listened intently, noticing the maturity in his perspective. There was a depth to his understanding, a sense of empathy that she hadn't expected. It reminded her that even young people could offer wisdom, care, and comfort in unexpected ways. The afternoon passed quickly, filled with small but meaningful interactions. Claire noticed how Ethan's presence seemed to soften the atmosphere in the house. His calm energy was contagious, and she found herself laughing more freely, speaking more openly, feeling lighter in ways she hadn't in years. She realized that connection didn't need to be dramatic or loud. Sometimes it was the subtle, everyday gestures that had the most profound impact. Ethan's attentiveness, his gentle humor, his quiet supportal of it combined to create an environment where Claire felt emotionally nourished. Later, Claire decided to take a walk outside, needing fresh air and reflection. Ethan accompanied her, keeping pace at a comfortable distance. The sunlight filtered through the trees, and Claire felt a serenity she hadn't experienced in a long time. She talked about her childhood, her dreams, and the small regrets that lingered in her heart. Ethan listened, offering thoughtful responses without ever intruding. She realized how rare it was to be truly heard, and the experience deepened her appreciation for the bond that had formed between them. Returning home, Claire found herself drawn to small acts of care from Ethan. He offered her a cup of tea, noticed when she seemed tired, and suggested ways to make her day more comfortable. She reflected on how these gestures, though simple, had a profound effect. It wasn't romance in the conventional sense. It was emotional support, attentiveness, and respect, all packaged in a way that made her feel valued and understood. Claire felt a quiet gratitude for the presence of someone who genuinely cared without judgment or expectation. As evening approached, Mark called from his trip. Claire spoke with him briefly, recounting parts of the day. But she noticed the stark contrast between his distant, preoccupied tone and the warm, attentive energy she had experienced with Ethan. It highlighted a gap in her emotional life she hadn't fully acknowledged. Claire felt no guilt, only a growing awareness of the importance of human connection and empathy in her daily life. After the call, she and Ethan spent a few quiet hours tidying the living room and preparing for dinner. Conversation flowed naturally, with moments of laughter, gentle teasing, and shared observations about their small routines. Claire noticed how comforting it was to share space with someone who listened, responded thoughtfully, and offered companionship without expectation. The subtle intimacy of trust and understanding had grown into something profound, a sense of mutual respect and emotional closeness that brightened the otherwise ordinary day. Later, Claire retreated to her room to relax. She reflected on the past few days, the bond that had formed between her and Ethan, and the surprising ways that had influenced her perspective on life. There was no scandal, no impropriety, only the realization that emotional support, care, and kindness could profoundly affect one's well-being. She felt lighter, calmer, and more connected than she had in months, understanding that meaningful connections often appeared in the most unexpected places. Ethan returned to check on her. Noticing her thoughtful expression, they spoke briefly about their plans for the next day, maintaining the same gentle respect and attentiveness that had defined their interactions from the start. Claire realized how much she valued this presence, not as a replacement for her husband, but as a reminder of the human capacity for empathy, support, and understanding. It was a bond built on care, listening, and quiet kindness. And it had shifted her outlook on life in subtle but profound ways. As the night grew darker, Claire felt a deep sense of contentment. She understood that her days had changed, not because of dramatic events, but because of the steady, reliable presence of someone who genuinely cared. She recognized the power of emotional connection, how small acts of thoughtfulness could build trust, comfort, and reassurance. It was a lesson in compassion, respect, and human intimacy. And it had transformed the rhythm of her home life. Cliffhanger resolution. Claire lay in bed that night, reflecting on the past week. She knew that the bond she shared with Ethan had altered her understanding of connection and support. It was a quiet, profound realization. Life could bring unexpected relationships that offered care, tension, and empathy without crossing boundaries. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new moments of growth, but she felt ready, supported, seen, and understood. The story wasn't about scandal or betrayal. It was about the power of human connection, trust, and kindness, and the way it could transform ordinary days into moments of emotional richness and resilience.